Let's talk spring 2026 fashion trends. Okay, I know it's only February, but I'm in California and it feels like May already. So I'm already getting into that warm weather mindset. Plus, I feel like the sooner I'm exposed to these new season trends, the more time I have to process them and think about how or if I'm going to incorporate them to my wardrobe the next season. But truly, the upcoming trends aren't too complicated. I feel like a lot of them are kind of carrying over from the past fall winter season and maybe just becoming a bit more modern or sophisticated. And I'd also say, like, overall, the trends kind of fall into one of two categories. They're either more elevated or structured grunge, I'd say, kind of like that 80s grunge, maybe 90s grunge, or they fall into like a romantic shapes and textures category where there's a lot more of like draping, effortless romance, kind of like artisanal texture and that kind of thing. Because after having a few seasons of this highly tailored aesthetic, I feel like we're having a mood shift to a more softer, more romantic aesthetic. But there is a juxtaposition there and that opportunity to create some tension in your outfit if you wear something from each of those categories, something more kind of a structured grunge and a more artisanal, maybe romantic aesthetic. That tension that really does create an outfit that's really interesting. But let's get going. I know we're still early in the year, so I'm just gonna rapid fire through 20 different trends that I'm seeing coming up for the 2026 spring summer season. And just to note that this video, I'm just talking about clothing items and not necessarily accessories in any way. So if you want me to do a video on the accessories for 2026 trends, let me know below, but let's get started. Starting off, let's talk about colors. So for every season, there is one main color that is trending, and this time it is blue. As far as blue goes, I've heard capri blue, ice blue, chilled blue, cerulean blue, light blue, which I'm calling air, like A-I-R-E, because whenever I see that word, it's that like kind of cool, icy, but airy blue that comes to mind. So I'm calling it air blue. We're seeing in every shape or form: pants, dress, blouses, skirts, leather, suede, everything. Personally, I'm gonna leave the bolder shades for those who can really rock them, but I do love a navy suede or like a striped dress or short. But side note, stripes are a huge trend for spring, especially like the blue and white stripe. I feel that that sort of like elevated boat or yacht chic style with blue and white stripes is always trending in spring. So I'm not talking about it that much in this video, but big trend as always. We're seeing those like pastel blues, more of like a cool icy blue. We're seeing the bold cerulean blue. We're seeing either like head to toe like color drenching of blues. We're seeing blues paired with either like browns or, like I said, with white for stripes or with reds. Touch more on that later. But another really big color trend for 2026 will be green, more of that like chartreuse green. I've also heard it being called like a lime green, wasabi green, like an olive green, which is still very like 80s in my mind, kind of like a grunge 80s, almost like a dirty green, but done in a really fresh, modern, sophisticated way for 2026. It might not be the easiest color to wear, and you probably don't own something in this color, but for me, out of all of like the non-neutrals, navy and greens are like my top contenders. I'll lean into those because I feel like green and blue are almost like neutrals in a way. I'm very much like a neutral or like natural element person, so I think like the blues and greens kind of lean into that a bit. COS has like a really cute shirt cardigan in this color, and I'm loving it here in this Dries Van Noten blazer. I actually love this look so much. I've had it saved in my like Pinterest and like on my phone for like since it came out, I think like last year. I actually did buy the bra, and I would love to buy the skirt and blazer too, but it's just like iconic to me and I love this look. But other than the blues and greens, we'll be seeing a lot of like bright color combos. So again, with like the 80s influence, I'd say 80s or 90s, coming into spring summer 2026, a lot of bright color combinations will be popping up. So it's kind of like thinking about it either in like an 80s or 90s influence, not necessarily grunge, but all those kind of like bright color combos that you wouldn't normally maybe put together. We're seeing a lot of like the bright colors like tomato, cobalt blue, bright yellow, fuchsia, either worn head to toe, again like color drenching, or like worn with each other or paired with some sort of neutral like a gray or a black or a brown. So like I mentioned earlier, pairing the blue with like a brown, like the cerulean and espresso outfit, it's giving like Pacific Northwest to me, which is where I'm from originally, or like a sophisticated coastal look. Very easy to do. Brown has been big for a few seasons, so hopefully you have some sort of brown in your wardrobe already to wear with this, especially like an espresso brown. I feel like it's so flattering on everyone, and it's just like softer than black. It's very like spring appropriate. It's not as, obviously not as dark as black. And then the blue that's popping up too, very on trend. So I love this outfit. it's easy as like taking like a blue cardigan and pairing with like a brown suede bag or like a brown leather bag, or taking like a blue mini dress and like a brown leather jacket. I just love that color combination. And also these Still Here brown suede pants have been on my ultimate wish list forever. And just wearing that with like a blue tee or sweater would be so nice. But moving on from the brown and blue, we have blue and red, kind of more of like a bright cobalt blue and like a tomato red. Not really my thing, but I have seen some people, especially recently, wear like cobalt blue trouser or shorts and wearing like a pointed tomato red flat or heels, and it actually looks really chic. I really do love it. Not for me, but I can appreciate it out in the wild. If for some reason I had to do this color combo, I would wear it in the form of this Celine trench coat, which is like a regular beige trench coat on the outside, but it's the lining that has the blue and red in it, and you can kind of get a peek of it when the coat flaps open. I just love that. I think that's really chic and a really like understated and like modern way of doing this color combo. But in terms of red and blue, I think the oxblood and like an ice blue is a lot more striking and fresh to me, especially for 2026. I'm also a bit more of like a dark color slash like less vibrant color girl, so I love that here. We're also seeing red with pink, again more of like a true red but a softer pink, like a bubblegum pink or like a pastel pink. I think this is really cute too, but again, I'm more of a neutral girl, so pairing the pink I'd rather do with more of a chestnut brown like here. I love this. Out of all the color combos, this one is one of my absolute favorites. I feel like it gives that feminine masculinity in an outfit, that like tension that makes it very interesting. The brown gives a little like strong power, and then the pink is a little like soft and sweet, and I just love pairing those two together. I'm obsessed with this outfit too. It's not necessarily like a really bright color combo, which is probably why I love it so much, but it's just another kind of fresh combination of colors that we'll be seeing in 2026. But I do love it here. Like Bottega did it so well. If you're into the high contrast looks but don't want the color, then actually white and black outfits are going to be trending for 2026 as well. I feel like black and white outfits can be both grunge but also lean into that more romantic and artisanal side of the trend landscape, and also can be like a combination of both of them, which again creates that tension and really interesting outfit. And kind of carrying on with that, but also going back to more colors for the season, you might have heard that the Pantone color of the year for 2026 is Cloud Dancer, which is like a soft creamy white. So head to toe white outfits are really trending for spring and summer 2026. It's very fresh. Like Bevza also described the color, they're kind of doing like a Milky Way edit, and I think all white outfits like head to toe are just very fresh and very modern. They can be very sophisticated. I feel like we see them every year, but I think that the way that they're being done now with like a lot more texture, a lot more like visual interest than just like a plain white like dress or like a white top and white skirt, which are also very modern and fresh too. But we'll move on to textures later on, but they can be very, very 2026 with the addition of these other things right now, with one of those forms being sheer. So another 2026 trend will be sheer. I'm calling it It's Clear It's Sheer. Sheer dresses, sheer skirts, sheer button-ups or crew neck tops. However sheer you want to go, it is out there. There's less like the mesh sheer fabric. They're also seeing a lot of like lace or even crochet for the summer. I feel like especially now I'm seeing a lot of skirts, like sheer skirts. I saw them a lot the last couple seasons, but I feel like especially now they're everywhere. And you can wear them, again, it's like, it could be like a sheer lace skirt, it could be just like a sheer mesh skirt. They are typically like maxi length. There's also the showstopper dress from the Jacquemus Spring Summer 2026 runway. Very quintessential summer, but done in a less of a boho way and more of like a modern romantic way, I'd say. But as we talk about crochet, it gets me very excited for my core fashion aesthetic, which is textures. So I want to talk more about textures that are going to be very popular for Spring Summer 2026. And I'm going to call this trend collectively the sensory experience, which I am somewhat surprised to see this for spring. But again, like I talked about how kind of coming into 2026, we're seeing a lot more of either grunge or like a romantic artisanal texture, and kind of like a play on both of those. So we are seeing some more fringe. Fringe will be a big one for spring. Fringe, we saw some tassels in the past, but now everything is fringe. Fringe is everywhere, it's on everything, so that's a big one. We're seeing even like leather and suede still, so again, like carrying on from fall winter last year, carrying into spring. We're seeing denim. We always see denim, but we're seeing like a darker denim, which is usually more reserved for fall, but we're keeping it into the spring now as well. And even fur. There are some like fur outfits that people are going to be seeing in spring too. But like I said before, we're seeing this in more of a modern, sophisticated way. So less like Western, less boho, which have been really big trends for the past few seasons, but more like art gallery or museum visits, or it's more modern and more intentional and more sophisticated. So let's start with the biggest texture trend, and that is fringe. From satin scarves to the hems on lace skirts to ponchos lining the bottoms of coats, jackets or pants like in these Doan Levon pants, even in the form of like suede or leather skirts or jackets, fringe is everywhere. And there's truly no restriction on fringe. Like it could be, again, like on the hem of a skirt or the middle of like a leather jacket or on a scarf, on accessories. It can be like a short little fringe on like a cardigan or 3 feet long fringe on like a bag. I was also gonna say when I was like scripting for this video that I personally wouldn't wear like fringe both top and bottom, like a fringe top and fringe skirt, but then I saw this picture and I'm like, it works. So there is truly no restriction on the fringe. It's full fringe for the spring season. And I was not really a fringe girl. I mean, I love texture, so I feel like people would expect me to be a fringe, but for me, fringe always reminds me of like boho or Western, and I'm truly not that girl in any way. But St. Agni has been doing fringe so well. They don't have too much, but they have this like fringe slash tassel sheer top. Oh my God, it's so hard to say, that I fell in love with. And they also came out with this leather fringe belt slash skirt, which is also in this picture worn as a top, and it is like, I just have to get it. I don't know how convenient or like realistic it is for me to wear in everyday life, but it is so cute, and it sold me on the fringe. Obviously we're seeing this everywhere, like Alaya, Bottega, Michael Kors, spring 2026, ready to wear. Fringe is everywhere. And out of all the textures that are trending for spring 2026, I feel like per item, fringe adds the most to an outfit. Like it makes the biggest statement out of all of the textures, I'd say. So if you don't own anything fringe like me, might be the time to invest in something, especially if texture is your thing. The next texture trend I'm calling is leather weather, and we've been seeing a lot more leather in skirt form lately. The pencil skirt was very popular in fall winter 2025. Also we're seeing it in jackets, so jackets are less bomber. We're seeing them a lot more intentional, like leather jackets. They're cropped, they're hourglass, they might have military style details, or they're just like very minimal. And with them being a lot more lighter in design, we are going to be able to wear them spring, maybe going into summer depending where you live in the world. And again, they're a lot more lighter, like both in design and just like as a jacket overall. So, and it's not just black, we're seeing them in all colors. We're seeing in the green, the blue, the navy blues, the bright blues. We're seeing them in red too. Truly no colors are being left behind when it comes to leather. I mean, we saw the Kylie Jenner and Timothée Chalamet outfits that they wore to the Mighty Supreme premiere. Leather in all forms. And I mean, the spring summer 2026 runway trend was a colored leather pencil skirt. We saw especially Prada lean into this. They had that kind of worn in or effortless look to them. And although leather is not necessarily a summer material, I have been seeing them in like the trunk shows for 2026 fall and winter. If you were to invest in one, or you have one now that you can wear into spring as it's still kind of cold, maybe put it on pause for summer, but we already are seeing them in the fall winter 2026, so you know that you'll be able to bring it back in the following season. Another texture that's popping up is embellishments or embroidery, and we haven't seen too much of this yet, but I foresee that it will kind of pick up as the season kind of comes on. Especially we're seeing this in the way of florals. Florals for spring are inevitable, but seeing them this year, they're going to be more 3D, more kind of reimagined with tactile depth in the form of sequins or embroidery or crystals. And lace too, I would include that here. But yeah, just seeing those kind of more, again, just texture and kind of a romantic artisanal texture that I kind of mentioned earlier, by the way of like embellishments and embroidery. And with all this texture talk, I feel like we are slowly moving away from that quiet luxury that was trending for so many seasons. I feel like now we're really wanting to create that visual interest by way of texture in our outfit. It just makes the outfit that much more interesting. If you use an accessory like a suede bag or a leather fringe wrap skirt or like, I don't know, a satin scarf with fringe, it's a quick way to make your outfit, one, more visually interesting with all these textures, and two, like more unique and a way to kind of show your personality through your outfit, which is kind of like the point and what we're trying to do. Okay, colors and textures are kind of like the big thing for 2026. Now that we've done the colors and textures, let's kind of get more into specific items. So one of the things that I have written down for trending for spring 2026 is the modern blouse, specifically in white or pink. I'll talk about it later, but it seems like denim is taking a bit of a backseat and allowing the rest of your outfit to kind of stand out, one of those being the modern blouse. Like I said before, trends are getting a bit more sophisticated and modern now, so something like the white blouse is such a classic like capsule wardrobe item, and I'm sure almost all of us have some sort of white classic blouse in our closet that we can pair with anything. The white blouse is being reimagined for 2026, either being more texture, more sheer, maybe more draping, some fringe too, of course, or is being reimagined in like a baby pink color, like a bubblegum pink, which is a really cute and fresh take on the classic white blouse. And then moving on down to bottoms, we have statement skirts, which we've talked about a bit before with like the fringe skirts, embroidery we're seeing in skirts, lace skirts, but also drop waist skirts or dresses we're seeing a lot of. I mentioned it before too, but kind of like a colored pencil leather skirt too. Prada's pencil skirts, the leather ones, were very cool. Like they were very textured, again, like kind of that raw looking leather or like worn in leather. I think the skirts in general are becoming a lot more popular, and just having that kind of texture to them in some way, or having that drop waist silhouette, is really going to be popping up in 2026. And then we talked about this a bit in fall winter 2025, but the art of layering is again going to be popular for spring. I think it's impossible to talk about spring without talking about layering, but you know, maybe more like modern layering in the form of like sweaters over the shoulders, or just sweaters kind of like over one shoulder and tied in the middle, or we've been doing a lot of like tying sweaters around your waist in like fall winter 2025, and now we're doing that, but we're moving it to the side, kind of in like the St. Agni campaigns. They're doing that, layering cardigans and like tank tops in different ways and with different textures, different, again, just creating that like tension that is very present in like the modern sophisticated 2026 trend. Now we can't talk about spring and layering without talking about jackets, and there are a lot of great options for spring 2026. Funnel neck jackets have been popular for a while now. Last season I feel like you could find any kind of jacket you wanted with a funnel neck, but this season I feel like every other jacket has a funnel neck with it. Like it's almost like a 1-to-1 ratio of like funnel neck to every other type of jacket, or like the funnel neck just takes over. Everything is being offered in a funnel neck. I find it so flattering. I feel like it's really like elongating because it just makes the jacket that much longer. I feel like people might fight me on that because it could like cut off their neck, but I just find like it's so flattering. I feel like it gives structure. It's a very modern neckline, and I feel like it never really goes out of style. It's very timeless. I've said this before. I feel like you can wear it season after season and you're not gonna be like outdated ever. I am loving leather jackets with the funnel neck. I found the St. Agni one, which is actually from their pre-fall 2026 collection, but it just goes to show that this style, this like neckline, funnel necks, will be continuing at least until the end of the year. This Magda Buchum one has been on my wish list for a while as well. Another jacket style that we have to talk about for spring are trench coats. So every spring, trench coats obviously are like the most popular type of jacket, but this year I predict that black trench coats will be a big trend. We've seen crop trench coats, we've seen a lot of like the beige, obviously it's like the classic trench coat color, but this year I'm finding that like black, there's a lot more black options, and it's really trending for 2026. Again, kind of leans into that structured grunge that I talked about at the beginning, and a kind of like modern take on the trench coat. Another jacket style that you've probably seen everywhere are military style jackets, or Napoleon style jackets, whatever people are calling it. I feel like every brand is coming out with a style of this, but it's also a very cool like vintage item to get, this kind of military style jacket. I actually do really like this style. I don't know why. I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, it's very different from anything we've seen recently. So I did see this jacket from St. Agni, a leather jacket. I'm not gonna grab that one because I do feel like it is kind of more of a trendy like style, but I do love this high neck St. Agni top that has like the military style on it. If you can't already tell, I'm obsessed with St. Agni for some reason, so they just really killed it for their pre-fall, and it can be worn into the spring too, so I'm just buying everything from that collection. But definitely military or Napoleon style jackets are very in. With jackets, we also have to talk about blazers. Blazers have been a staple for a while now, and blazers I think are like the only jacket style that don't or can't have a funnel neck, so we should talk about them because they don't fall into that category. But this is where we'll revisit the 80s trend that I was talking about earlier in the beginning of the video. And no one does it better than Saint Laurent or Helsa, having that like hourglass shape with a bold shoulder, very in style for 2026. And now going back to the romantic shapes and textures category that I was talking about, draping and asymmetry in anything, mostly in style of like dresses, skirts, and blouses, but we're seeing these everywhere. I also incorporate like capes into this, but just having that like romantic draping, having like dresses head to toe, just very romantic, but also again modern, sophisticated style to them. Asymmetry, like bottoms of skirts and dresses, just not having them straight across. We saw this a lot at Michael Kors. Yeah, asymmetrical kind of creates that texture, that interest, and kind of incorporates that maybe romantic category that I talked about, but also that grunge of just having like an uneven hem to them. Another trend I'm seeing, I'm calling Sportif, and it's kind of having that like chic, sporty look. A look that I think really showcases this trend is Hailey Bieber's outfit that she wore to the spring summer 2026 Saint Laurent Paris runway, where it was like that orange and yellow, like the orange kind of windbreaker quarter zip jacket with the lace shorts. Something like that, like funnel neck bomber jackets or sports jackets are really in right now, like windbreakers or quarter zips. Polos are really in again, and just wearing those kind of things with like lace trim shorts like she did, or like sheer skirts like in this picture, kind of adding like a sporty edge to an otherwise like done up look. Another trend I'm seeing is very like high volume pants. So we're seeing like balloon pants. Those were kind of like trickling in last season, but we're seeing a lot more of those, either like very baggy balloon pants like these Frankie Shop ones that I have, the cargo pants. There's these Helsa balloon pants that have kind of like the bubble hem, just those like high volume baggy pants. We're also seeing very like artful pants, I want to say. They're kind of like a wrap pant. They either have like extra volume just on the sides, kind of like wrapped around on both sides, or kind of like a faux wrap going over the front or something. St. Agni has these as well. I swear I'm looking at other brands, not just St. Agni, but yeah, just like high volume pants, kind of playing into that romantic draping or asymmetry I talked about earlier, having more of a flow, but more modern and sophisticated. I'm going to say that a million times, but modern and sophisticated for 2026. And then lastly, I like to talk about denim. Denim, like I mentioned before, is kind of taking a backseat. We're doing a lot more of streamlined, simple denim. Just like a dark straight leg is the most popular like look that we're going to be seeing, and allowing other elements of the outfit to really showcase themselves. We're still seeing a bit of like the barrel leg, again like high volume bottoms I just talked about with like balloon pants and like the artful pants. We're seeing those, but having more of like a straight leg, even maybe a bit of a boot cut. I've also seen some flares, not quite the skinny yet. Skinny has been rumored to be trending, but no one's committed to that yet. It's more of the straight leg with darker washes is more of what we're seeing now. But that is my rapid fire of the 2026 spring summer trends. I'll kind of go more into them in a future video, but I just wanted to give a quick little sneak peek because I'm feeling the warm weather vibes. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.